Hi everyone, and a happy Friday to you. Today I'm going to talk about what it feels like to be manipulated. It is more of a heavy topic, but I think it's super important to talk about it because I have felt invalidated a lot in my experience, and I fear that a lot of people who go through a abusive or manipulative or both relationship and the aftermath of it will experience a lot of guilting and being blamed for it, and just in general lack of sympathy and lack of understanding. And that does not help, because coming to terms with the fact that this has happened to you and accepting that it's happened and trying to realize and accept that it's not your fault when so many people around you act like it was your fault and you let it happen, it's so difficult. So that's really my main reason for wanting to talk about this, as well as just making people feel like they're not alone and helping them realize what kind of situation they're in, because it took me a long time to realize how bad it was. It's been over 4 years since my abusive relationship ended, and it's still hard to accept that it happened to me, but just realizing that it wasn't my fault and I didn't do it to myself really helps, and I really hope that I can help someone else get to that point. Being in a manipulative relationship is just something that I think everyone thinks that it's not going to happen to me, and I thought my whole life that it would never happen to me, because of course you see the signs and it's so obvious that it's manipulation and it just wouldn't happen, but it does. It can happen to literally anyone. Also, this is my experience of manipulation. Of course, everyone is going to have a different experience. I'm just talking about what it was like for me. And just to have it said, I'm only speaking my truth. I am not making shit up, because the truth is already bad enough. If you are my ex or someone in my ex's family, please don't watch this video. And if you do, don't message me about it. I'm not going to respond to you. I'm not going to read your messages. This is my story to tell. I really hope that me sharing my story can help someone else. And if you don't want people to talk about the bad things you've done to them, don't do bad things to them. Something that we hear a lot when people talk about being manipulated is that the person is making them feel crazy. They're making them question their own reality, question their own sanity, question their own just understanding of the world, because suddenly everything you think is either wrong or questioned by this person, or you're just not allowed to think anything of your own. I questioned myself so much, like, am I just being too sensitive? Because my ex would say that to me all the time. They would say like the worst kind of stuff to me and then be like, I can't say anything to you because you just start crying. And I was like, oh, am I just not able to have a conversation? Like, am I actually just too emotional that I can talk about adult things with someone? While in reality, what my ex was saying to me was definitely a good enough reason to cry. But I just thought like, oh wow, I am the problem here because I just start crying when they say hurtful shit to me. But when the only input you have is them telling you that you're wrong all the time, it's really hard to not question your own mind or your own sanity, just you being right. In my relationship, it felt like I constantly had to prove that I was good enough, and I just stretched myself so thin. I was exhausted all the time because I had a lot of stuff on my plate, but I also had someone that I had to please all the time and prove that I was good enough for. There was just no room for mistakes from my side. It was literally like, do whatever I tell you all the time or I'm gonna break up with you, which they did multiple times, so many times. Also common is that they try to have power over you and control your choices. It's really frustrating with this one because a lot of choices can have, you know, a long-lasting impact on your life, and when you make them for someone else, it sucks. And making decisions that when your friends see what you're doing, it doesn't make sense for them, and it just looks really selfish or really just inconsistent and weird. And maintaining friendships and a good tone with people around you and a good flow in your social life is really difficult when you have someone trying to control everything. A huge problem for me was my friends. I had a lot of straight guy friends at the time. This was a huge problem, but in reality all of my friends were a problem because I am pansexual, so literally my ex would just feel threatened by literally everyone in my life. It was just always a problem. And in London I had a lot of, like, I don't know, single friends, not as in relationship status, but not friend groups. One friend here, one friend there, one friend there. So I would hang out with people, just the two of us, a lot of the time. And this was also a huge problem all the time. And it's not like my ex wanted to come with me and socialize with me because they weren't a social person. So that wasn't, you know, a solution either. So it was really hard to see friends and maintain friendships. And in general, like, they made me call in sick to work as well because they wanted me to spend time with them and skip uni. I'm so glad that these things things didn't affect me in the long run. Because of course people get their financial situations ruined, they get their careers ruined, they get their, you know, education ruined by people trying to control their lives. But it's really hard when someone is controlling your every move and you don't identify with what they're making you do, and it's really hard to explain it to other people. And in general, it's really hard to explain your relationship to other people because you know, like, you kind of know in your head, like, this doesn't make sense and people are gonna think it's weird. But it just feels like there's nothing you can do. I remember specifically 3 times in all of like those a year and a half that I managed to talk to other people about our problems. All 3 of those were breakups because they would constantly break up with me and then pretend nothing happened. I just thought that I wanted to be with them because they made me feel like I was useless without them, so I really needed them, which sucks to think about now. Just explaining this to other people, like, yeah, my ex just left me, like drove away, and yeah, and they said that we should start seeing other people, and yeah, so they just didn't talk to me for a week. It's just so strange to explain something to other people when it's just, first of all, out of the blue, because you have to pretend that your relationship is, you know, amazing and all of that, which the fact that I thought any of that was good. Imagine being in a relationship and thinking that, oh yeah, this is really good, I'm so happy, and then, well, first of all, like deep inside, you know that I'm not happy and I am giving up like my dream of a happy life by being with this person. But also for me, after my breakup, like telling people about how bad it really was, people were shook because they thought that we never fought and we just had this perfect relationship when it was nothing like that. Something else, a very common move for manipulators is to belittle the person they're with all the time. Make them feel terrible about everything, talk down to them in public or in front of their friends, in front of their families. There's just no line, and my ex was very abusive to me in a lot of different ways, and also in front of people, which is very scary because when they don't have any kind of boundary to where they're allowed to treat you terribly, they'll just treat you terribly all the time, and of course even worse when no one is around. My ex was extremely toxic, but one thing they would never do was to like acknowledge me. I met my ex when I was 23, and at that point I would have really enjoyed, you know, holding hands in public or just any kind of acknowledgement that I have a partner, or like for them, I have a girlfriend, so that would be nice. But they would never like my pictures on Facebook. They would like my friends' pictures, not mine, not comment on them. Now, this is not something that I require from a partner to make me feel good or make me feel like I'm secure in my relationship, but at the time this is something that I really wanted and I requested it, but they would never do this. They posted a picture of me one time and they called me a dog in the caption. And the worst part is that made me feel good because they posted a picture of me. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make this a funny video. It's not, it's a really serious topic, but I'm a millennial, I guess that's how we handle serious things. It's just looking back at all these things and how it made me feel and how I thought that this was normal, it's just ridiculous to me. Now that I have some distance from it, I can laugh at it. It's like watching myself in a movie because it feels like this is not real, like it didn't happen. Okay, I didn't, you know, disassociate from it. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it's not like I think it didn't happen, but just thinking about what a relationship is supposed to be like and what that was like, and it's just so crazy to think about, and it's hard to imagine that this is actually real. My ex consistently made me feel like I needed them and that I just wouldn't be okay without them, and that like I really, really needed them to take care of me, which is ridiculous, but I believed it. They also made me believe that no one else would ever love me, so if I left them, I would be by myself, I would be alone, and no one would love me. I would just be single for the rest of my life and I would die alone because I was so unlovable and ugly and fat and bad at everything and stupid and all of that, so I could either stay with them or just leave and be alone for the rest of my life. And I believed them because I guess I loved them and I wanted to feel like I was worth being loved, and little did I know that was not love. Just thinking about all the things that they said that I would never have if I left, and I got all those things but I never had them with that person. It's so weird. Another thing that manipulators do a lot is lie. My ex lied a lot. They lied about silly things, stupid things, made me believe weird things about them that weren't true, but that weren't even pros. Like, I don't know why they would lie about things that didn't really matter. They really made me believe a lot of things. I guess that also brings out sympathy. Like, you kind of get pulled in more because of sympathy and you feel bad for someone and then you want to give them something good. But just never being upfront about stuff and then making you feel bad. You know, you have to tell them everything, but then they clearly lie about stuff to you. It's so strange. In the relationship, you probably have really unbalanced positions of power, and you lying to them is just 1,000 times worse than them lying to you. Every single time I confronted my ex about something they'd done to me, it would either be brushed off, they would say they didn't do it. Most of the time, they would just be like, you're crazy, that didn't happen, I didn't do that. Also because deep down, I don't know, sometimes I think my ex didn't enjoy what they had done, so they would pretend it hadn't happened. But most of the time, I really don't think my ex cared about me, and they treated me like a piece of trash that they could just throw around however they wanted. So I really don't think lying to me or treating me badly meant anything at all, because I just cannot see how you can treat someone you love badly, like actually in a malicious way, because of course we all do stupid shit sometimes and we can hurt someone we love. That's something that can happen, of course, but with intent to hurt them and like really hurt them, I don't think you can do that to someone that you truly love. My ex would constantly ignore me and I would have to fight to get attention. Sometimes this would be that I had said something wrong or something that they had misunderstood, because I'm not a rude person. I'm probably not going to try and hurt your feelings. So if I said something wrong, a conversation needs to happen to let me know what was wrong so that I can apologize. But you can't just, you know, block someone on Facebook for a week if they say something that offends you, because honestly, first of all, we were from different countries and different cultures, and that also did not help, because the number of times something was literally just a misunderstanding because we were coming from different places, and it ended up blowing up because they went from a 0 to 100 real quick, like in 0.5 seconds, because they would constantly jump to conclusions that everything I did or said was with a bad intention or with the intention of cheating on them. It was just terrible. One time I'm gonna leave the actual like story times for a different video, because I want this to be focused more on like the actual like manipulation part. Sometimes when they would ignore me, I would want to do crazy things to get attention. Like sometimes I actually thought, this is not funny at all, this is super serious and I hope no one ever thinks like this, but I thought that if I ended up in the hospital, they would come and see me and they would feel bad, like they would realize that they loved me and they shouldn't treat me bad. I luckily never got to the point where I actually hurt myself or, you know, did something to get attention like that, but I honestly felt like that would be a good solution to get them to realize that, you know, I'm a human being and I deserve to be loved and they should treat me well. Feeling like a situation like that would be beneficial is so unhealthy. No one should ever have to feel like that. Another important thing that I talked about in the video I did about why people stay in abusive relationships, because that is a very important video for me to have out there, because people just don't understand, but there are so many different reasons why people stay in bad relationships, and my biggest one was that my ex needed me to make them happy. Their family told me all the time how much better they were doing, my ex was doing, after I came into their life. And I also had a really close relationship with my ex's family, which made it even harder because I knew that me leaving is gonna also make it harder for them. My ex would all the time make me feel like they needed me, and I got to the point where I felt like it was my purpose in life to make this person happy because they hadn't found that happiness in other places. So it was really just my purpose to make this person happy, and that's what I should, you know, dedicate my life to, which your life should not be dedicated to anyone else, okay? Just saying. If you're wondering why I stayed with this person, it was really hard to leave because I felt like, I said this before as well, but if I left, I feel like I just had cursed them forever. Like I had just deemed them to be unlovable, and I just really wanted them to have what I could give them, and I really wanted them to have love because I knew that they needed it. Like I knew that they were struggling a lot, so I just really wanted to give that to them, and I really tried. Oh, the sun is coming in this way. Ooh. Making someone feel like you need them is just really toxic. You should never make someone feel like they are with you because you need them. A partner should add to your life. They shouldn't be there because you need it and because there's like an empty hole to fill, because you should be able to be fine on your own. Something that my ex would do a lot was to compare me to other people, even their exes. I have never been on like first name basis with all my partner's exes. Obviously, like I didn't meet them. Well, I did meet one of them, but they didn't really tell me that was an ex until after. So that was just one of the like 1,000 red flags that I had waved at me. But if you choose to ignore those flags, it's not like they're gonna go away, you know? But even to the point where they were like, oh, I wish you were more like so-and-so, or like so-and-so would do this to me and it would be great. And I'm just here like, well, why are you with me then? It's so weird because they would talk so much shit about their exes and then also compare me to them and want me to be more like them and talk about their bodies and how their bodies were amazing and all of that. And I'm like, this is making me feel great, thank you. They would even talk about my friends and what they liked about my friends and their bodies and their just everything, and make me feel like they liked them more than me. It was just so disturbing and so uncomfortable. It's so surreal to talk about these things because it just doesn't feel real. It feels like something that I've made up. Another thing they would do a lot, like all the time, was to hurt me and then comfort me. So after hurting me, they would comfort me and make me feel like they were there for me and took care of me and all of that and protected me, while what I really needed protection from was them, but I didn't see it that way. And they would also say that I overreacted or that I should be quiet and that I should just deal with it and all of that. So them hurting me, I would be overreacting to it, and then they would need to comfort me. So they still made me feel bad about reacting or crying or just being in pain or all of that. But sometimes they would comfort me and make me feel like I was a princess and that they looked after me, and that would make me feel good. And that would make me feel like that was a safe space, which it absolutely was not. And the human brain is amazing, but it can really be messed with. They would make fun of me a lot and judge me a lot. So everything I did, they would question it and just also shout at me for it and criticize me. So I felt like everything I did was wrong, and even like the way I drank water from a glass would be wrong sometimes, and like they would just yell at me for literally everything I did. So of course your confidence is gonna take a hit from that, and you're gonna feel like you can't do anything without being criticized. I always felt like there was something wrong with me, and I was always just waiting for my ex to point out what I did wrong and the stupid thing I've done now. They would always make it seem like I wasn't good enough for them, and I literally always felt like they were gonna leave me for someone else. I don't know if they tried, but they definitely talked to other people. I don't know how deep the intention was, but it definitely made me feel like my position was threatened. I never felt secure, and I never felt like, oh yeah, I am gonna be in a relationship in a month's time, because I just couldn't see past the next 10 minutes. Things could change so fast. It always just felt like they were gonna leave me for someone else. Like they would break up with me and then the next day they would have someone new. The worst part about all this is I was constantly trying to convince myself that it was normal. And I knew that it wasn't, because I had people around me in relationships and I could definitely tell that they don't have it like this. Like they are not dealing with stuff like this. They are not treating each other like this. This is not normal. But I would look for, you know, signs in other relationships that they had stuff like this going on, or, you know, when you hear a song or a movie where people are dealing with really difficult things in a relationship and they still get back together, or they, you know, stay together and they work through it, and I'm like, oh yeah, not every relationship is perfect, so this is fine. Nothing is wrong. I don't want anyone else to go through this. It sucks so much. This is not normal. Love shouldn't hurt. And I just have a request. If you know someone who's going through this or who has gotten out of it, please, 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 please don't make it feel like it's their fault. And please don't talk to them like you've changed or you're like different now. You're not fun anymore, because I was in a really, really low point when I was dealing with this, and towards the end of my relationship, I was just so sad all the time. I was not a fun person to be around, but some people around me were complaining about the way I was acting and how sad I was all the time, and it just made me feel horrible. I know that it sucks when it feels like someone is taking their sadness out on you because they're not, you know, being the fun friend they used to be, but please don't feel like it has anything to do with you, because it doesn't. It's just they're feeling like shit and they're not trying to be a lame friend. They're going through something really difficult, and you really need to try and understand that and not make them feel guilty or that it's their fault for doing this to themselves, because that's not going to help. It's going to make it a lot harder, and it's going to make them feel even more isolated and alone in their experience. And I think it would have been really nice if I didn't feel so alone. It's such a difficult thing, because of course I understand that it's hard to support someone when it feels like they've just dug themselves into a hole, it's not my fault. I didn't do it to myself and I would never have chosen it, but it happened. I needed help. The only person who really understood what I was going through was my other friend who had gone through a manipulative relationship. And of course, I am just devastated that my friend had to go through it, but it's just really nice for the both of us to have a person who understands, because no one understands. And I don't know why it's been so normalized to just blame the victim for what's happened when it was our exes that did it. Like, we didn't do that to ourselves. We didn't choose it, but it happened to us. They did it to us. We didn't do it to ourselves. I really just want to express this. That's the main reason I want to keep talking about this, because I think it's really, really important. I am just super passionate about making other people feel like they're not alone and feel like they're not at fault. Thank you so much for watching and listening today. I hope you took something away from the video. I hope that you'll never have to deal with anything like this. If you have, I hope that you're healing. If you know anyone who's going through it, have gone through it, please support them to the best that you can. Just listen, be there for them. That really, really means a lot. All right, I shall see you when I see you. Have a nice weekend. Keep up the good vibes.